So this is just going to be a little rant kind of video, and it's going to be regular, and it's going to go along with a new blog, Let's Consider, which just talks about things like you would talk about just hanging out with your friends. It's not like a research paper, which is more my my Today I Learned blog, which is also great. But I kind of wanted something that involved a more discussion type thing. So this will be less formal, but it might be more interesting with that. So let's begin. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is a resource-based economy. I know I've been talking about this a lot with the show That Sucks, so it should be pretty interesting and relevant to what we've been talking about and people who may be subscribing to my channel. So a resource-based economy is the idea that instead of money, consumption should be based on the natural production of resources that the earth produces. So we would never, for instance, consume more oil than the earth can produce, such as we do now. And the idea is usually associated with the Zeitgeist movement, and the term resource-based economy was coined by, I think, Joseph Franco. However, the idea of a resource-based economy has been around for a while, just under a different name. So it certainly seems like a good idea. Certainly no one sane thinks that we should use resources until they're dry and then move on to the hopeful next one. And let's face it, money causes a lot of problems. So what's bad about a resource-based economy? Well, for one, it doesn't exist. I mean, this is really the main problem. The fact is that it's such a big change that it means that there's serious doubts it could happen, short of, say, a trillionaire buying some territory in some country and trying to start a new society. When a resource-based economy type of society was presented in the Zeitgeist movie moving forward, they described this society by imagining how we would start if we had a second Earth, free from anything humans have done to it. And using that, it is able to present the idea for a seemingly utopian society. The problem with this is that we only have one Earth, and people on it naturally resist change, which brings me to the next point, human nature. Specifically, the idea that certain things, like greed, power, and stubbornness, are all innate parts of the human race, and they may not allow such a society to exist. People will always want to be ahead of other people, and it's not just for money, it's also about being remembered. If you looked at my article on Isaac Newton in my Today Learned blog, which will be in the description, you could see that his greed wasn't for money, but he wanted to be remembered. He would not have given away that for anything, and he was willing to revoke others of that right to assure that his name would be bigger and last longer. That's what she said. Making a place in history can be horribly competitive, and when I say horribly, it can mean so much that I mean it that it could inspire horror. The problem is that many utopian societies, it's that people are treated the same in these societies. I mean, after all, if people were treated differently, it wouldn't really be much of a utopia, because that wouldn't really be fair. So maybe for some people it would be a utopia, but for others, they just don't feel they're getting treated the same. Why don't I get those things? Why am I not so important? People will not accept being treated the same in the long run, or at least that's what the evidence of history points to. So even if it's not for power, for money, for greed, it will be about being remembered, and not just being dust when you die, meaning something to the world. And I personally don't think that we can blame them, because, I certainly don't. I want to be remembered when I die, and that implies that I will need to be more important to the human race in some way. I'll need to try to help the human race, hopefully, to have it remember me. And That's not something that all people can succeed in. I mean, just the human brain is not going to remember every person that lives. I'm certain that if we look at all the different famous people the average mind can remember, it might be under 100. So, let's back up a bit, because nowhere in a resource-based economy does it say that people are forced to be equal. It certainly might imply that kind of in the Zeitgeist movement when, it does talk about some other stuff. But let's split this away and just talk about a resource-based economy. As far as I understand it, people don't have to be equal in it. All it means is that while there is no money, it's just the economy is based on what the earth can provide. So people could still compete for being remembered by trying to invent new things and writing books or doing something to the sort. So is that the end of the possible flaws of the resource-based economy? No. A resource-based economy may have another flaw. It does not have a real way to treat scarcity. And I'm not talking about known scarcity, because a resource-based economy certainly does have protections against this, but rather scarcity caused by human or even machine error. So put yourself in this resource-based economy and let's imagine that you're a person who really, really loves oranges. Just for this sake of argument. So in this resource-based economy, there is a constant stream of yummy oranges, which a vertical farm can make well over the need of the population it provides for. However, let's say that one of these shipments fails, and in a resource-based society, one of the shipments will have to fail. Nothing's going to be 100%. So even if it's very rare, eventually there's going to be some scarcity that was not intended, or rather not known in advance. Like we might know if there's not going to be much enough trees going, but let's get off that tangent. So there's going to be this scarcity that we did not intend, that we did not see ahead. So there's less oranges now than the population desires, and let's just say that a few people particularly want some, and they start asking for some people if they have some extra oranges until the next shipment is in. Well, maybe some people will give them oranges, and maybe some people will ask for favors in return of oranges, of whatever sense. And in the worst case, maybe some people will want some kind of trade for that orange, and that is dangerous to a resource-based economy, because in that trade lays the seeds for a convenient medium, which is money. As people will trade, and if trade becomes common enough between these people, naturally money will rise. Not paper money necessarily, but just maybe oranges. People will use this one kind of thing to trade for other things. Now that's a little bit of a stretch though. I mean, it's unlikely that a free market revolution will come after maybe a month max of free oranges. There's a lot more to talk about, but I want to keep this relatively short and not boring. And I also want to let you guys have a discussion with me. I'm not perfect, so I may have made some mistakes, both in the blog and me speaking here. So please note those at the bottom. Please tell me when I'm wrong. I can't say that I would love to hear it, but I will correct myself. And, importantly, tell me what you think about a resource-based economy, so that we may discuss on it. Thank you. And this is just me closing it. Hopefully I will cut this out.